So a couple of days ago, I made a video regrading the 2022 NBA draft, and you guys seem to enjoy that, so I wanted to regrade one of the more polarizing drafts, I think, of the last 5 years, and that is the 2021 NBA draft. I feel like if you did a regrading at any point in the season from basically when this draft happened, you could have a different grading system or a different redraft if you were to do that, because there's been a ton of variants. These players have been taking off or been disappointing kind of a ton since this draft happened. So if you guys do enjoy these, feel free to drop a thumbs up. Let me know if you guys want to see me do this with the 2020 draft. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring today's video. Use code SROS to get 100% deposit match up to $100. More about them later, and let's get into this. All right, so the Detroit Pistons selected Cade Cunningham with the #1 overall pick, and this was pretty much the consensus #1 overall pick for a little bit. He was the #1 prospect going to Oklahoma State, and basically when the Pistons won the draft lottery, we all knew that this pick was going to happen. Honestly, I'm still going to give this pick an A. I think Cade Cunningham is going to be a really good player in this league, and he hasn't not shown me any reason to not think that. I basically think that he's going to be a multiple-time All-Star in his career. I think he could be an All-NBA guard as well. I'm not going to dock him too much for the poor situation that Detroit drafted him in, a revolving door head coaching, and just no consistency basically since drafting him in the summer of 2021. The one thing I was worrying about him was his three-point shot, but it's come along. He's shooting 35% from three this year on really good volume. He's a phenomenal playmaker. He's a three-level scorer. I think he has good defensive potential. He's still an A-caliber player. Maybe if he made an All-Star game or something like that already, he would have been an A+. All right, this is definitely a polarizing player who went #2, and that is Jaylen Green to the Houston Rockets out of the G League Ignite. Man, the G League Ignite has had a pretty poor pipeline so far, and it's getting disbanded this year. But Jaylen Green is probably the best player to come out of the G League Ignite. But pretty much the motto of his career so far has been inconsistency. An inconsistent rookie year, an inconsistent sophomore year, an inconsistent year 3, even though he's been on a tear as of late. And like I said with Cade Cunningham with coaching, I'm not going to dock Jaylen Green for just the poor environment that was his rookie and sophomore year. I'm going to give this grade a B+, though. I don't think it's deserving of an A yet, because I don't even know if the Rockets are going to extend Jaylen Green this offseason. If he's going to continue to show what he's done over the last 15 to 20 games, then I think that this could eventually be an A+ pick. And if he continues to finish this year on a strong note, this could be one of the best picks in the 2021 draft, which is kind of crazy to say because we never really thought this at any point leading up to about 2 months ago. The Cleveland Cavaliers at #3 selected Evan Mobley. I'm going to give this a B+. Now, Evan Mobley, a phenomenal defender, like one of the best in the league at someone that's just 22 years old. He's been on and off the floor this year with multiple injuries, but I think what's holding him back from being in that A grade tier is the lack of offensive progression we have seen this season. He's not a terrible three-point shooter, but he just doesn't take enough, and like I said, with him being off the floor this year with injuries, we really haven't seen a nice linear offensive progression in year 3. Still an incredible rebounder, still an incredible defender, a good playmaker for somebody of his size, and he's efficient at the rim as well. I just wish he developed a little bit more of a mid-range shot or an outside jumper, because then he could be one of the most valuable young big men in this league. So for now, I'm giving it a B+, but once that improvement comes on the offensive end, he will definitely get an A grade from me. All right, coming in at #4, we have the Toronto Raptors selecting Scotty Barnes, which was kind of surprising at the time. Nobody really thought that Scotty Barnes was going to go ahead of Jonathan Kuminga and Jaylen Suggs, and he did just that. He ended up winning Rookie of the Year from this class as well in 22. And if I made this video last year, this probably would have been like a B+ grade, but I'm going to give this an A right now. Like, Scotty Barnes was an All-Star in year 3. He had a really good rookie year, was pretty stagnant, and didn't improve too much in year 2, but this year he is really breaking out to being the franchise guy for the Toronto Raptors now that they've moved on from OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam. He's averaging 20 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, incredible defense, a steal and a half and a block and a half a night. He's playing 35 minutes a night as well, shooting 48% from the field and 34% from 3, which maybe isn't the best in the world, but that is a 6% improvement on higher volume from year 2. So Scotty Barnes, it's an A grade from me. See, this is where the variance kicks in. Like, Jaylen Suggs here at #5 to the Orlando Magic. I make this video last year. I make this video in October. It's probably a C grade, but now it's a B+. Jaylen Green has been phenomenal for the Orlando Magic in this specific role. I think a lot of people, and myself included, thought coming out of Gonzaga, Jaylen Suggs could have been that primary ball handler and elite point guard one day, but I think this role fits him perfectly. Someone that's going to be a 3-and-D hustle guy, and then a phenomenal complementary piece to a 1A and 1B and what they have over there in Orlando with Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. Jaylen Suggs' shot has really blossomed this year as well, going from 32% last year to 40% from 3 on 5 attempts a night this year. Like I said, his defense has been phenomenal and really being such an impactor for one of the best defensive teams in the Eastern Conference. So that's why I'm going to give this a high grade for Jaylen Suggs, and with what Orlando did later in this top 10, it was okay taking an elite 3-and-D guy here at #5. All right, coming in here at #6, we have Josh Giddey. I think if I also made this video last year at the end of the regular season, this probably would have been an A grade. I'm going to give this a B for now. Now, I talked talked about Josh Giddey in my most disappointing players for every team video, and I did mention that he's coming along as of late, like Jaylen Green as well for the Rockets. I'm going to give this a B though, just because I think Giddey has taken a little bit of a step back on what we think he could be in OKC. Definitely going to be taking a back seat to Shea and J-Dub, and I think even Chet Holmgren as the 3 building blocks going forward. Don't get me wrong, he's still a phenomenal young player to have. He's 21 years old. He's a solid scorer still, but not the best. He's a good playmaker, good rebounder, and his 3-point shot has been better as of late. I just think we don't view him as a franchise building block than we did last year with the OKC Thunder, where I would have given this an A grade. So for what he is right now and the inconsistencies offensively and especially defensively this year, I'm going to give it a B. I'm intrigued to see how many of these guys actually get extended from their teams this offseason when they're all going to be eligible for that rookie extension. All right, next up we got Jonathan Kuminga at number 7, also another guy that has blossomed in year 3. He's gone from 9 points to 16 points a night. He is averaging a career high in steals, assists, rebounds, and field goal percentage as well. The 3-point shot hasn't progressed too much. I'm going to give this a B+ for Kuminga. Honestly think that we could see him do a lot more if he had an increase in playing time. Obviously, he's been behind some other forwards and bigs like Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, and Kevon Moody in the early parts of his career. But now we've finally seen him get like a good amount of playing time this year, starting 44 out of his 70 games, averaging a career high 26 minutes a night. I'm excited to see what Kuminga could do in 30+ minutes a night. Hopefully we see that from Steve Kerr in year 4, but you never know with Steve Kerr and his coaching rotations. But yeah, I'm going to give this a B+ for Jonathan Kuminga. I think just still getting him at 7 is good value, and I still like what he could be long term. Coming in at number 8, we have Franz Wagner to the Orlando Magic. I'm going to give this an A-. Now, Franz has taken a little bit of a step back this year with the 3-point shot. It's just not falling whatsoever. He's shooting sub 30% from 3, but it still looks like he could be a good enough efficient scorer as a number 2 option on a really good team, and we're seeing that this year with the Orlando Magic, even with the bad 3-point percentage. But he's still a really consistent free throw shooter, and the shot looks very good, so I think he's going to be fine from 3 in year 4. He did shoot 35% from 3 in his rookie year, and 36% from 3 last year. Was also phenomenal for Team Germany in the FIBA World Cup, so I think he'll be fine in year 4. I still like Evan Mobley long-term over Franz Wagner. The reason why I have it a B+ for Mobley and an A- for Wagner is just because Wagner went 5 spots later, so I just think that's a tiebreaker for Wagner going in that direction. Just getting him a little bit later in the draft I think will help out his grade, and I'm excited for Franz Wagner going forward because the underlying numbers are still there that he's going to be a good enough shooter long-term. So coming in at number 9, we have Davion Mitchell to the Sacramento Kings. It's going to give my worst grade so far. I'm going to give it a C. Yeah, this is year 3 for Davion Mitchell. The offensive numbers have kind of gone down from year number 1. You know what? I don't think he's going to be someone that could take 11 shots a night like he did in his rookie season. He's taking around 4 shots a night this year in just 14 minutes a night. And you know what? The efficiency has been better. It doesn't seem like he could be a high volume efficient scorer, but I just don't see enough from his offensive progression to really warrant a grade higher than this. And I think what's holding him back and saving him from being in that D level grade is his defensive ability. I do think at his peak, he could be somebody like that's like a Javon Carter, maybe even an Alex Caruso if it all goes well, because there is still some great defensive potential in him. I just think I don't see much offensive progression in his future, so that's why it's going to get my worst grade so far, a C. Coming in at number 10, we got Ziaire Williams. I'm giving this a worse grade. It's going to be my first D. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan when Memphis, which is a respectable ran franchise by Zach Kleiman, who's a good general manager, traded up from 17 to 10, also giving up Jonas Valanciunas in the process to go up and take the former Stanford Cardinal, Ziaire Williams. I didn't hate Ziaire Williams coming out of Stanford. I just didn't think that he should have been a lottery pick and someone that has shown no offensive progression. And in a year where he could have had a true opportunity to break out with the amount of volume he will have with all the injuries to Desmond Bane, John Morant, Marcus Smart this year, and we've seen breakouts from Vince Williams and Gigi Jackson. We haven't seen that from Ziaire Williams whatsoever. Career low in field goal percentage this year at 39%. Still just shooting 30% from 3. Hasn't improved as a playmaker, or I don't think as a defender as well. He's also dealt with a hip and back injury this year also, so it's just not been a great year 3 for Ziaire Williams, and I wonder if he's even going to be in this rotation at all next year in year number 4. All right, coming in at number 11, we got James Bouknight, somebody I did like at the time going at 11 out of UConn. It's going to be an F. With the off-the-court issues and just no development whatsoever in any of his years, James Bouknight, I think, is a lost cause in Charlotte. In year 3, he is averaging just 5 minutes a night in 14 games, averaging 3.5 points, less than a rebound, less than an assist, 0.1 steals and 0.1 blocks a night. I don't think he's improved as a defender whatsoever when watching him in that limited, and I mean limited sample size. So maybe Bouknight could still be a good player. I mean, he only played in 31 games as a rookie, averaging less than 10 minutes a night, and played 34 games as a sophomore, and the efficiency was not great in a career high 15 minutes. Just what we've seen from Bouknight so far, I don't think could warrant a grade higher than an F. Not a great pick for Charlotte in this 2020 2021 draft. All right, next up with the 12th overall pick, we do have Josh Primo, who was drafted out of Alabama by the San Antonio Spurs. Yeah, this is definitely going to be an F from me. I wasn't a huge fan of Josh Primo coming out of Alabama originally. I thought that the Spurs reached with this pick. I definitely thought they could have traded down outside the top 20 and could have gotten him. He wasn't great right away for San Antonio. He was a sub 40% field goal shooter, wasn't much of a playmaker, didn't really love his defense, and then after his rookie season, he was suspended by the NBA for exposing himself 9 times to the team's former psychologist. So with on the court, lack of play, off the court issues, this is definitely going to be an F for me. He's still in the league though on the Clippers roster current day. Man, Chris Duarte's had a very weird career so far. I mean, he was drafted as a 24-year-old by the Indiana Pacers and averaged 13 points in his rookie season on, you know what, solid efficiency. He did shoot 37 from 3 and 80% from the line. But usually when you're drafted that old, you aren't going to get much better and you hope you could stay around the same level, but it just wasn't like that. In year 2, he fell off a cliff for Indiana, averaging just 8 points on 31% from 3, a 6% drop from his rookie year, 36% overall from the field, another 6% drop from his rookie season. And this year in Sacramento hasn't really been much of a difference maker whatsoever. Still an okay 3-point shooter, but isn't much overall anyway. I'm going to give this a D+ because I think that Chris Duarte peaked in his rookie season. And the last pick of the lottery, let's talk about Moses Moody to the Golden State Warriors. I like this pick a ton at the time. Moody coming out of Arkansas. I'm going to give it a C+. I do think that Golden State has done a very poor job developing Moses Moody. And I know that he's had his inconsistencies at time this year when it comes to confidence and just getting his rhythm going in the half-court offense. And I do wonder if he's really going to excel in Golden State or we got to see him in a new scenario, and that could happen this offseason as well if he were to get traded. I still think he could be a good 3-point shooter in this league, and I think he could be a fine bench scorer. I just don't think that we were going to see a consistent starting caliber wing that we thought he could have been at the back end of this lottery when he was drafted by Golden State at 14. So yeah, it's a C+ for me because I still like the offensive potential somewhat. Outside the lottery, let's talk about Cory Kispert to the Washington Wizards. I'm going to give this a B+. I remember saying at the time, I didn't really like Washington drafting Cory Kispert because I just wanted to see Kispert go to a really good playoff team so we could see him knock down some big time threes and big moments. We haven't seen that at all in Washington because obviously they've been a very bad team since they drafted him, but that is not going to deny how good of a shooter Kispert is and how good of value he is being drafted at 15th overall. He's a career 38% 3-point shooter, 48% field goal shooter, and he's averaging a career high 13 points a night for the Wizards this year. I think he would go for at least a first round pick if the Wizards were to trade him, if they didn't want to extend him. And he was also a little bit older coming out of Gonzaga, but he's improved every single year, unlike Chris Duarte, who didn't really do that out of Oregon. And coming in at number 16, we have Alperen Sengun, who is going to earn my only A+ grade in this draft. Now, I do like Cade Cunningham long-term more than Alperen Sengun, but the fact that Sengun gets an A+ relative to Cade Cunningham's A is because he went 15 picks later. Houston traded with Oklahoma City to take Sengun, and he looks like a real legit multiple-time All-Star from what we've seen in year 3. Now, unfortunately, it got cut short with the ankle injury. He's only going to finish with 63 games, but the jump from year 1 to year 2 and year 2 to year 3 is so impressive now that we finally see him with a good head coach in Ime Udoka, averaging 21 points, 9.5 rebounds, 5 assists a night. He really is Jokic light. Over a steal a night, good efficiency inside, an incredible post touch, and a great offensive hub for this Rockets half-court offense. The only thing that could have made this an A++ like I gave for Jaylen Williams if he was somewhat of an elite 3-point shooter, but that's just not there. But shout out to the Houston Rockets for getting Sengun here at 16, who is just incredible value, and that's why it's going to be my only A+ grade. At 17, the New Orleans Pelicans selected Trey Murphy. I'm giving this an A- as well. So yeah, a good grade here for Trey Murphy just because he went 17th overall and is a phenomenal offensive player, one of the best shooters in this draft, and is also a plus defender as well. And I also like his playmaking ability. This year in year 3, 14 points, shooting 43% from the field, 37% from 3 on 7.5 attempts a night. He's a solid free throw shooter, good rebounder, a phenomenal pick by the Pelicans here, who also made probably an A+ pick in the second round. I'll mention him at the end of the video. At 18, OKC selected Tre Mann out of Florida. I'm going to give this a C+. Now, Mann didn't really get the time to shine in Oklahoma City just because of the amount of guards that were there already with Josh Giddey, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and then they drafted some over the times as well. And we've seen his small sample size of him in Charlotte this year when he was involved in the Gordon Hayward trade, and the offense looks a lot better. He's a good 3-point shooter, a solid playmaker, and I do think he still has some good offensive potential. So similar to Moses Moody, I'm giving it a C+. Kai Jones to the Charlotte Hornets here at number 19. I'm gonna give it an F. Yeah, this was not a good draft for the Charlotte Hornets. Obviously, there's been some off-the-court things with Kai Jones, but he's someone that just didn't really work out whatsoever for them. He's now on the Philadelphia 76ers. He was waived just after 2 years of Hornets basketball. So yeah, Bouknight and Kai Jones in the same draft. Not great, Charlotte. I'm sorry. At number 20, Atlanta selected Jalen Johnson. I'm giving this an A-, similar to Trey Murphy. I did not see this jump from Jalen Johnson in year number 3. I knew it was going to take a little bit of time for him to get acclimated at the NBA level since his season was cut short at Duke, and he didn't really show much in his rookie year whatsoever. He showed kind of glimpses of potential in year 2 last year with the Hawks, appearing in 70 games, but this year for Atlanta, he's really broken out. He's going to finish top 5 in most improved player voting, 16 points, 8.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.1 steals a night, a block a night, shooting 51% from the field, 35% from 3, all career highs across the board. Jalen Johnson has been phenomenal for Atlanta. He might get extended, I think, pretty generously in this offseason, and I think it's 100% deserving. He looks like he's a nice building block for Atlanta going forward, along with Trae Young, if they were to keep him. At number 21, Keon Johnson went to the LA Clippers and hasn't really shown enough in the NBA for me to really warrant this higher than a D+ grade. I think Johnson has been fine in very limited minutes because there is still some defensive potential, and I like that coming out of Tennessee, but I just don't think he's going to be an efficient enough offensive player. But who knows? He's still 21 years old. He still has a lot of room to grow, so I think he could end up being a C+, maybe even a B- player by the end of his career. Isaiah Jackson went to the Indiana Pacers at 22, and I'm going to give this grade a B. Jackson out of Kentucky looks like a serviceable big in this league. I don't think his numbers have improved too much this year. Obviously with a decent amount of big men there in Indiana with newly acquired Pascal Siakam. They have Miles Turner, Jalen Smith, Obi Toppin. They spent a top 10 pick on Jarris Walker last year. That's why we've seen Jackson's minutes go down a little bit, but I still think he's a really serviceable big man in this league and will be a backup big man for a long time. I think he will have a double-digit year career. So I'm going to give this a B. I still like Jackson a ton. I think he will improve if he's on a different team in his 4th season. Usman Garuba to the Houston Rockets at 23. I'm going to give this an F. There were definitely some potential signs for Usman Garuba to be a good player in this league coming out of Spain, but it just did not work out in Houston. The efficiency wasn't there, kind of slow for a big man, but never really had too much of a chance to shine. This year he's with the Golden State Warriors, hasn't really played at all. But some guys that went after Usman Garuba, that's why I'm giving this an F. And a pick later, Houston took Josh Christopher out of Arizona State at 24. I'm going to give this a D. I still think that there's some offensive potential from Josh Christopher, but he's not even on a team right now. He was waived by the Utah Jazz in January, which I thought was kind of weird because like Jaylen Green, like Sengun, really was in a poor situation in his rookie year and sophomore year in Houston. And I know that there were some bad shot selection issues. I just think he still has some chance as an offensive player in this league, and that's why I'm giving him a D relative to Usman Garuba's F. Quentin Grimes went 25 to the New York Knicks. I'm going to give this a B. With some buzz going around Quentin Grimes, I think this is serviceable of a B because of his 3-and-D potential in this league. He was really good for the Knicks this year, at least from downtown, shooting 36% from 3 and being a really good defender. He really showed out as an elite defender against the Cavs in the playoffs last year. He was elite last year, 38% from 3, and he's been dealing with multiple injuries with Detroit, most notably a knee injury, which is going to be out for the year. I'm hoping that he is fully healthy for year 4 in Detroit and could be a nice 3-and-D complementary piece to Cade Cunningham, kind of like we're seeing Jaylen Suggs to Franz Wagner right now from this class. Bones Hyland went to the Denver Nuggets at 26. I'm going to give this a C-. It's weird because Bones showed so much potential right out of the gate for Denver, and then in year 2, he was basically traded for Thomas Bryant. It ended up being like a multiple team trade. He ended up in LA for the Clippers, was fine as a backup guard last year, but has been out of the rotation for the Clippers this year. He's been inefficient, not really a great defender, hasn't improved as a playmaker, and his shot selection really isn't there either. Bones is definitely going to have to get it together in year 4 to really find where he fits best in this league if he wants to have a long career. At number 27, the Brooklyn Nets selected Cam Thomas. I'm giving this an A+. Getting someone that's averaging 22 points on good efficiency with the 27th overall pick. Yeah, I gotta give credit to Brooklyn for this one. Do I think that he's better than Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, or those elite guys in the top 10? No, I don't think he's better than Alperen Sengun either, but I do think that getting Cam Thomas 27th overall, what he's done for Brooklyn this year, and still just being 22 years old, has to get some credit for how amazing he's been on the offensive end of the floor. Jaden Springer to the Philadelphia 76ers at 28. This is going to be another F grade for me. These Fs are pretty much because there's some good second rounders that went less than 10 picks after him that they could have taken at similar positions as well. And Jaden Springer is now on the Boston Celtics. He didn't do anything to improve in Philadelphia, so I'm giving it an F. Not great for the Tennessee Volunteers in this first round with him and Keon Johnson. Sharpe went 29th to the Brooklyn Nets as well, so this was their second first round pick. I actually think that Sharpe is a decent big man. I'm going to give this a B-. And who knows, he could be the starter in Brooklyn next year if they don't bring back Nick Claxton, who's an unrestricted free agent. I think Sharpe's a solid rebounder. He's a solid inside scorer. I think he could be a good shot blocker and efficient guy inside on a pretty cheap contract going forward. So I actually like this Sharpe pick a ton from the Nets, and I think they've been developing him in the right way. And then at 30, we have Santi Aldama, which was kind of shocking at the time. I did not think he was going to be a first round pick. He went to the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm going to give this a B. Someone that's not really mobile. He's not quick. He's not shifty. He's not the best ball handler in the world, but is somebody that has some size and is a phenomenal three-point shooter at the forward position. He's 6'11", can play a little bit of the 4, a little bit of the 5, is averaging 11 points this year, shooting 35% from 3 on 5 attempts a night. Someone that's actually taking advantage of his increased opportunity, unlike who the Grizzlies took 10th overall in Ziaire Williams. So this draft also had some phenomenal second round picks, most notably Herb Jones at 35 to the Pelicans, who may be on an all-defensive first team this year. Miles McBride to the Knicks at 36 has been a great standout backup guard for New York and has been an elite three-point shooter with his playing time. Ayo Dosunmu at 38 out of Illinois. Hell yeah, that was a great pick from Chicago. There's also some other guys in the second round that have shown some flashes, but that is going to be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with in the comments below. And how do you feel about this 2021 draft so far? Drop a like if you guys want to see me do this with the 2020 draft as well. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.